In this part of the training, we're going to talk about the cooling system on these type of machines. And the cooling system is often misunderstood as cooling the actual machine. What it's really on there for is to cool the product as it exits the machine. Primarily used in encapsulation, and as I say, it's used to make sure that the product is cool enough when it exits the machine, primarily to reduce curl. So I'm going to show you a few different machines and how the cooling system works on them. What we're looking at here is the Seal 62 Pro, and this is a D model, meaning dual heat, and that's usually the only type of machines you're going to see cooling systems on. Is because it's mainly made for encapsulation. So the reason why I chosen this one first is because the fan bank back here is easy to see, and this is a common way that machine manufacturers use to cool the product. These fans generally run on line voltage, and typically it's just a switch on the control panel to turn it on, or maybe a relay inside. On the Seal 62 Pro, it's actually wired directly to the main power, the line voltage, and it's just a control panel switch to turn it off and on. Now, they really don't see a lot of problems with this type of system other than debris getting in the fans. So you may see one of these fans that's not turning, and it's because something got down inside of there. A word of caution: a lot of times when something's stuck down in here, it could be a razor blade or something sharp, so just be careful if you've got to remove some kind of obstruction from there. Okay. Now once again, if you're going to be inside the cabinets of any of these machines, make sure that your power and air is removed, and if you do have to take any measurements or make any adjustments with power on, you need to use an extra level of care. This is the fan on the Orca. Now, Protec on the Orca series of laminators used a slightly different method of providing cooling air. They used a ducted system, so the cover has slits in it. It pulls air in through this fan and through a duct system. As far as the power goes, it does use line voltage, or 220 volts, to run the fan, but it's controlled by one of the relays here in a relay bank. So you don't see a lot of trouble with these systems, but one thing I will say is can be helpful in troubleshooting. The fan generally only runs while the machine is in motion, so while the motor is turning. So it can be a helpful troubleshooting tool if your motor's not turning, but when you hit the foot pedal or energize it, you can hear the fans run. Then you know you're getting the right signal to cause the machine to turn, but it's not turning. Now I want to show you the area where the cooling goes on, and show you something that is typically called a chill idler. So this is an idler bar that aids in the cooling of the product. So the fan I just showed you works through the duct and provides air up through these slots in the cabinet, and you see that the idler has is movable, so you have a bunch of different settings here, and what that's on there for is to help control curl of the product. So if you have the product that's curling one way or the other, you may be able to combat that by using the chill idler. But the reason why they call it a chill idler, as the material comes across there, it draws heat out of the product, and the cooling fan in turn will cool the idler, keeping it cool over long runs. Here you can see the Falcon 60 Plus, and you can see the slots here for the air to come out, and they used a removable idler on this one because sometimes people feel like that idler gets in the way when they're not doing encapsulation. Okay, and then in this shot you can see the bank of fans that comes from underneath. The electrical system on the Falcon 60 pretty much works the same way. You've got a relay that turns the line voltage on and off to those fans, and they do only run while the motor is turning. And this is the Seal 600D, and the fans are very much buried inside the back cabinet here, so I'm not going to be able to show you them on the video, but you'll see the chill idler here. This one is not removable. One more thing I wanted to show you on the Seal 600D is these fans in the front that are actually used as a vacuum. So the feed table has a hole in it that corresponds with the fan, and it pulls air through these slots in the table to hold the material down as it's going through. Now, just a bit of history. When these machines were being made, many users were still using a type of printing called electrostatic printing. It's basically a process where toner was applied to the paper by pulling it through with an electrical charge. So the paper was very thin, and we used to have a ton of trouble with that material wrinkling, and this was one of the ways that Seal tried to combat that issue. And as far as electrically goes, the fan switch that turns on the cooling fans also turns on the vacuum table fans.